Saw this question asked in a subreddit about asking women, but about guy friends. So I thought I would ask you all. Please be respectful. Story 1. Only ever talks about their boyfriend when they want to complain or vent, then can't figure out why I don't like the guy after only ever being told bad things about him. Story 2. Date terrible people and then take months to break up after I lay out any future red flags the guy will definitely express. I can't believe he's not ready for real commitment. I told you that 5 minutes after I first met him 3 months ago. I just thought he was different. Story 3. If I cannot do or say anything around you because everything is passed along to friends, family, and God knows who, then I might as well not bother. Story 4. When they ask for advice, do the exact opposite and then cry to me when it turns out badly. Look, I understand I don't have the best advice, I don't have all the answers. But when your boyfriend beats you, I tell you to file a restraining order at the minimum, and you decide to take him back, you're the fool. Story 5. This has been a hard one for me. Female friends that only want you around when they need something heavy moved, some handyman task done, or when a boy breaks their heart. Those are all great things to do for someone that is your friend, but when they ignore your texts or plan stuff without you, it sucks. This has been hard recently, but I've really started to cut off women that do that. There was one recently where I had gone out with this girl a few times and she ended up not seeming interested. Totally cool. She kind of just stopped responding to texts and invitations to do things. Also fine. I had helped her fix her car at some point. So 2 months go by. No word from the girl. I'm not new to the dating world. So I just move on and feel a little sad that there wasn't much closure. Then one day she texts me. Her car is dead on the side of the road and she doesn't know who to call. I sat there for probably 5 minutes debating whether I should just ignore it. She's not destitute and it was a nice day and she was in a nice part of town. I finally decided to go help her mostly out of curiosity to see if she'd try to apologize or come up with some reason. Nope. I mean, she said thank you and we got her running well enough to get her to a mechanic. I texted her a few days later to ask how she was and if they'd fixed her car. No response. It's been about 2 months since. That kind of thing used to happen a lot. I'm pretty good with cars, home repairs, and just listening. For my own sanity, female friends that don't reciprocate get the boot. Story 6. Call me. Talk for 20 minutes about their day, non-stop. Then, when they're done, they ask if I am okay, and when I start answering how my day went, they end the conversation or dismiss what I'm saying anyway. Story 7. Invalidation and being unhelpful. Generally, I have found that trying to find emotional safety with female friends, where they have already found it with me, tends to lead to them arguing about my realities and experiences, basically claiming that they're untrue or just deal with it. When they've asked how they can help, I've given them straightforward, reasonable ways to which they agree to do, then never do. Then, when asked why, they try to throw their shame on me. Story 8. The line separating friendship and something more is clearly delineated and enforced by them, presuming that the guy will eventually try to cross that line. While this might be true at some level, women always seem to blur that line when it suits them. When in need of favors or help with something, the friends I've had tended to act too friendly and borderline flirty. When they feel attention-starved, they'll do the same but expect me to be like a boyfriend placeholder, oversharing personal information, asking about personal information of my own, and even acting jealous in some situations. On top of all of that, whatever remains of any female friendship, either what I described above or an actual good friendship, simply dies as soon as she starts dating someone else. A minor thing, they're lousy at giving advice, especially regarding dating. Story 9. One of them that I talk to has a terrible streak with men. I'm talking like in the year I've been with my girlfriend, she's been with 5 different guys. I even tell her to date women because, damn, she goes after guys that are literally a red flag, stringing her along, not putting in too much effort, a complete mess. She then gets upset when I tell her, you need therapy, not a relationship. She agrees with me that she has terrible taste in men, and it's the same result every time. She goes for a guy, it seems to go well, it doesn't work out. She harms herself over it. Meets a new guy like a week or 2 later, rinse and repeat. Overall, her going for obvious red flags is what annoys me. Story 10. Chastise me for occasionally objectifying women, only to then spend an entire taxi ride telling each other, with me there in the taxi, how one particular attractive guy who was there that night would definitely get it. Another one, who has sex with other women as well as men, literally said, when talking about a woman from the past, she had really nice breasts. Story 11 talks about abusive ex. Goes back to him, talks about abusive ex, gets back with him for the umpteenth time in a row. Abuser starts drinking again. Abuser starts abusing her again. Leaves abusive ex yet again, only to repeat the cycle because he knows what buttons to press to win her over again. Ladies, you have got to break these cycles at some point. Too many of you have died trying already. Burn the boats. Burn the bridges. Cut these terrible guys out of your lives. You genuinely deserve better. Make a plan with allies if needed. Story 12. Openly make sexist comments about men. It's different when it's on the other foot. And even then, I'm not immature enough to think my experience with the opposite sex is perfectly representative. What especially bothers me is that these particular friends know I was nominated for a few awards for undergraduate papers in gender studies. I understand the issues being faced in terms of gender differences. Why do you complain to me about men but give a sour look when I make a joke about women? Story 13. Being assholes, asking for advice or an opinion, then doing the exact opposite even though it will end up terribly. Blanket and total man bashing, complaining about men objectifying them but then saying things like, that guy is incredibly attractive. Double standards and the inability to pick a restaurant. Story 14. Thinking they have privileges over me despite not being in a relationship with them. A couple of girls might like to keep guys they wouldn't date, but would still keep around for the friendship or chivalry benefits in their circles while simultaneously keeping them in the friend zone. The expectations of men to automatically be chivalrous for any and every woman, despite the same men not being allowed to expect any amount of expectations from women, doesn't exactly make sense now, does it? If you want to put a guy in the friend zone and end it, cool, go ahead. Just don't expect the boyfriend benefits and treatment without the label. Story 15. I have a coworker friend who always finds a way to make whatever topic that is being discussed about her. I just had a son, and with that comes sleep deprivation. When I came back from paternity leave, I was discussing newborns with some other coworkers. She joins in and goes, "Oh my God, I can't imagine how much sleep you're getting. Or not getting. Ha, I feel that. My puppy wakes me up whenever she wants in the middle of the night. It's so tiring. I'm basically a parent too. Thank the Lord I was too tired to care then." Story 16. Complain about how every single guy she has met is trash and take no consideration of the fact that if it's a pattern, maybe it's not just the guys who are the problem. Story 17. Insist that every single woman they are friends with is attractive. Not just claiming they are attractive, but expecting me to be attracted to them and becoming judgmental when I do not find them appealing. This is endearing in a way because I know they simply want to support the women they care about, but I think it perpetuates the age-old bias that attractive equals good, albeit in reverse, meaning that good equals attractive. People are sometimes not attractive, and they are just as deserving of respect and are just as good on average as attractive people. However, I do not have to be romantically interested in them. Story 18. I think for me, the number one thing is validation seeking, especially on social media. Bad hair day. No girl. You put on a load of makeup before you took that shot. Story 19. Complain to me about how they can't find a good guy, or how there aren't any good single men out there. I get the sentiment. Dating is hard, and yes, a lot of men are pretty bad. I understand the need to vent about this too, but I guarantee it's harder for me than it is for any of the women who've said this to me. I think most women are blissfully unaware of their privileged position in dating. I just don't complain about it to them. Also, they know I'm single and they say stuff like all single men are trash to my face. Ouch. I know they don't mean me, but that technically does include me, and it's annoying to be blamed indirectly for the state of dating when I'm not the problem. I'm not even that bad. I'm educated, employed, I work out, I have hobbies, I'm an artist, I'm into fashion, I'm hygienic, people say I'm sociable and outgoing. I'm also not a complete jerk. On paper, I shouldn't have a problem, right? But in reality, I have one thing working against me, which is just that I have a kind of ugly face, and that one thing alone is enough to make it near impossible to even get a date. That's just how it is. My point here is that my women friends are complaining about the taste of their wine to someone who is dying of thirst, and they don't even realize how out of touch it looks from my point of view. Story 20. When you go out drinking with them and they decide to be a complete liability, not being able to act like an adult and starting fights with random people, including bouncers, because they think that I, as their friend, will do something about it if it goes south. Story 21. She cancels plans on the day of like 30 minutes before all the time. I will literally text her and say I'll be there in about 20 minutes, and she'll text back and say she doesn't want to go anymore. Wasted gas and money. It's gotten to the point where I texted her mom to get her to leave her house. Story 22. They like to vent their frustrations about their partners or other life situations to me, but when I want to vent about something, they are suddenly very busy or something comes up. Story 23. After years of having multiple female friends waste hours of my time on the phone crying about their boyfriend or situation only to do absolutely nothing about it, and go back to being delusional about him the next morning, I had to implement an everybody gets one rule with all of them. The idea was they'd get one good long talk with me per guy, there was always a new one eventually, and if they ignored my input and got back to their old ways, they'd have to cry to somebody else. Long story short, that failed so terribly. Now if you call me to talk negatively about your spouse, I let you talk until you ask me a question and say, you're not going to leave or change, my ideas don't matter. And that's gone over much better somehow. It's like yelling at your kid versus just letting them get hurt once and learn. Story 24. 1. When I give you advice, you don't listen, but if someone else does, you treat it as the golden scripture. Cool, why do you waste your time asking me then, knowing fully well you were going to do your own thing anyway? And then, using someone else's advice, it's clear you are constantly wasting my time and don't respect my time. Getting the benefits of having a boyfriend without actually having one, and blurring the lines of friendship so thin that it's almost not there. Then, God forbid, as the guy, you fall for them, you're marked as a weirdo, or it seems that was your intention from the start. Swap the tables and reject them the same way they do, and you're a misogynistic person who hates women for declining their advancement out of the friend zone. The double standards are crazy. Their habit of messing around with guys' heads for fun or an attention boost. God forbid the tables turned because men are terrible. There need to be listened to but lacking the ability to listen to you. When they ask how you are, just say okay, because no matter what you say, they'll cut you off to talk about themselves anyway. There's a long list I can go down. Being friends with girls is so exhausting I take weekly breaks. Story 25. Take unnecessarily long to make their point or tell a story. A lot of the time they have something they want to say or share. They take about 10 minutes to do it with either a lot of repetition or unrelated points when it would probably take someone else less than 3 minutes to get across. Story 26. Complaining about other women they dislike. Constantly criticizing them and making fun of their looks while acting friendly to their face. I mean, I understand you don't like this person, but you stalk them so much and have an issue with them sometimes for simply existing. If I just defend the girl at times like, come on, she's a sweet person, and if you don't like them, just avoid them. Why are you so obsessed with what she is doing and keeping tabs? They'd sulk and get angry at me for not taking their side. Also, telling me about your sex life or complaining about it. Seriously? Even my guy friends don't tell me the details of their encounters, so why should I know about your hookup? I'm not interested in hearing about it, and it's gross and a violation of the privacy of the other person. And the worst thing, you tell them something you are vulnerable about in confidence, hoping it'll stay between us, and they immediately go around and share it with their group of friends. It's a completely terrible thing to do. Story 27. They tell me their problems with the expectation that I will hear them and provide a possible solution. Yet, if we switch sides, they won't be there and act like it's nothing. Story 28. Not exclusive to women, but maybe a bit woman-leaning. Talk to other people about problems rather than the person who is the source of the problem. A lot of the time, it's just a misunderstanding, and by talking to someone who is only going to have your side of the story, you will create an echo chamber. Story 29. Venting about the same problem for months at a time with no action. I understand you need to vent for days, weeks, or even a little longer, but after literal months of going through it, aren't you sick of the situation? Story 30. Doesn't really happen anymore, but even in my mid-20s, they would talk about guys they were sleeping with in great detail. I'm talking down to penis shape. Male friends I had at the time had never really talked about girls like that. Story 31. I honestly can't think of anything they do that annoys me. They probably recommend dating applications because they think men, or at least I, could get the same amount of likes and matches women seem to get on average. My male friends, funny enough, tell me that it's mostly garbage and agree with me, but mostly they are my friends because they don't annoy me and I enjoy being around them. The same applies to my male friends. On the rare occasion, they will make small sexist comments about men, but they aren't really that insulting, as I try not to talk to women who say outright sexist things about men.